Welcome back, everybody, to the Mullins Studios Podcast. I'm Marr. This is BlackCross.
Hey guys, how's it going?
I'm a bit drowsy, so bear with me for today's recording. Anyway, you know what? I've done the first topics so many times. I figured I'd get you be the one to do it, but first off, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing fine.
Well, first of all, let's go ahead and talk about it since probably I'm hoping to have this video fixed up beforehand. This should be released on the day of May the 4th, which is May the 4th be with you.
Oh, okay.
So I figure why not go ahead and just do a small Star Wars discussion type thing, kind of see where we are and how we feel about stuff.
Okay, I'm not as big a Star Wars person compared to everybody else, but
well, let's start with an interesting question. Of the Star Wars films that have come out in theaters, and I say that because there are multiple movies and stuff like that,
yeah.
Of the movies, which one's your favorite?
Well, I gotta say, that's kind of a hard question. Although, to be fair, I think my personal favorite would be The Empire Strikes Back.
The Empire Strikes Back?
Because I love the visuals, the effects and everything. I love the story itself, not just because it has one of the best surprise twists ever in cinema history. But I think, when I think of Star Wars, I usually end up thinking of Empire Strikes Back first.
I know a lot of people are probably going to hate me for this one, and for good reasons, I suppose, but in all honesty, if I had to pick a particular favorite, it would have to be Star Wars Episode 1 or Episode 3.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
I don't think so.
Right. But
I know some people will probably say otherwise, but it's your opinion, not theirs. So.
Right. And the reason why I say this is because Episode 3 ties everything together. It ties the end of the trilogy and it ties it to the beginning of the trilogy in that one movie alone. And it's probably one of the better ones, I think people will agree, of the prequels. In all honesty, it just has the best parts of the story. It has the best build-up. And even knowing that Anakin was going to become Darth Vader, it was probably one of the better, what's the word I'm looking for? Better expectations of a Star Wars movie, per se. It has everything that everyone likes, and it ties it all together.
I think we can all agree the worst Star Wars ever is Episode 2.
That is the weakest one, in my personal opinion.
I can't remember anything about Episode 2. It's
The worst part about it is when you have the main focus of the prequels, which we all agree the main reason for the prequels is to explain Anakin Skywalker's backstory.
Mm-hmm.
When you have the main focus being so jarringly boring and dull, that's when you've screwed up something.
I don't like sand.
It's not
It's
even
dusty and it gets everywhere.
It's not even that. It was so freaking boring. I kept thinking to myself, just get to the part where Obi-Wan Kenobi is in an investigation. That's how bad it is. When you find that the cloning process and everything is more interesting than the love interest, that's when you screwed it up.
Yeah, but I just felt like it just didn't have anything that makes it stand out as much.
Right.
I mean, it had Christopher Lee as Count Dooku, who does good, but it's not worth the whole movie. Yeah, I just think it's my least favorite one.
Yeah, but in all honesty, The Phantom Menace actually is a really good one in my personal opinion, mostly because, in my personal opinion, it's because of the fact that it was the first Star Wars movie that I got to see in theaters. The very first one.
Mm-hmm.
And I got so excited because at the time, as a little kid, I was already familiar with Episode 4, 5, and 6. And then to see the very first one coming out, I was so excited I wanted to see it. And I got to enjoy it all the way. And it's funny, too. As a kid, I liked Jar Jar Binks. Now, I despise him.
Well, I mean, actually, this is funny thing I just remember since you mentioned Jar Jar Binks. We were visiting one of our friends, James. Me and Jared we were visiting them, and he has a little girl. Granted, I suck at pronouncing her name, but
Mikusa.
I'm just gonna call her Kiki.
That's her nickname, yeah. But I remember just because of Attack on Titan.
Well, I don't care much for Attack on Titan, but I love Kiki's delivery service, so I remember Kiki more.
Fair enough.
And she was watching Netflix most of the time. she had her eyes focused on the television. If we tried blocking it, she would kind of whine a little bit. But once we moved, and there were parts where she was smiling and she was just grinning big. And come to find out, she was watching the Clone Wars. But the parts where she was smiling and giggling was parts where Jar Jar Binks and C-3PO was in the same scene together. And James like, no! You're not supposed to smile like that! You're not!
Even I was a kid, and I enjoyed Jar Jar Binks a little bit more than I should.
Yeah, well,
she'll eventually grow out of that, and she'll realize how annoying Jar Jar Binks really is.
Yeah, but I think Jar Jar Binks may not be the best, but he does far worse characters out there in cinema and pop culture. Although, in terms of like the newest Star Wars, like with Force Awakens, Last Jedi, I've been enjoying them fine. Rogue One is probably my favorite.
Out of the ones that Disney has spawned so far?
Yeah, as we never really see like how they got the plans of the Death Star.
I was impressed by how well they've done it, because I thought to myself, I was like, how can you make the concept of somebody stealing plans from the Death Star into a movie? How can you build up the concept?
Yeah, and I think it turned out pretty well.
And surprisingly, they did well. They had really good characters, particularly K2SO, my favorite.
The dead one that he hopes to bring back soon. We make fun of this all the time with him.
You do. You and Jared both make fun of it all the time. In fact, when Jared got me this for my birthday, he's like, I got you a present. I was like, okay, and I opened it. I was like, K2SO. He said, yeah, the dead one. And I'm like, but in all honesty, I just love him just because of his overall attitude, especially the introduction of him. She tries to run out of the convoy thing, and he practically jokes hold her and slams her to the ground. And he's like, congratulations, you're being rescued. And immediately I was like, I'm liking this already.
Yeah, I just love the one guy. Okay, granted, you know I love Rogue One. I don't know any of the characters' names. That's pretty bad. But I love the one who's like, I'm one with the Force. The Force is with me.
The blind one.
The Force is with me.
I saw Jared was kidding when he said that, but when we saw the movie and he starts chanting that, I'm like, nope, he wasn't kidding. He literally does that. He literally does that. More times than he should.
Well, I have to admit, the more you back at The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, I mean, I like them as movies, but there's a part of me that feels kind of awkward, like how they're going with the story. Like how Luke, of how he was planning on killing Kylo Ren because of Snoke getting too much into him. Even though I've heard a lot of people complain that there's never too late to help change Kylo Ren back, and I'm not even sure. I guess that part kind of like messes me a bit. Also, Snoke. I probably should have put a spoiler warning for this part, didn't I?
It's alright.
Right, but Snoke, I think, is the most forgettable character ever.
At this point, it's like
I thought they were gonna build him up. Heck, when I saw the hologram, I thought he was literally that big or something, but no, he's just regular size, wearing 70s pajamas, and he just gets killed. It's like, what was the point of him? Like, seriously, I mean, I can understand if Snoke had more presence in the first one and then was killed off, or had like more of an impact with the story, then yeah, I can understand. But no, he's forgettable in my opinion. I did not
It's
like
weird
him.
of how they have him built up and stuff, but all honesty, at this point, I think Disney is just having trouble trying to get the story to where they want it to be. Because I mean,
well, yeah, Princess Leia's sadly passed on, and the focus was gonna be most on her.
Right.
So that
Carrie Fisher, rather.
Yeah, Carrie Fisher. But
But-
since she's passed on, that I don't know how they're gonna do the name for one.
I'm going to tell you something, and to everybody else, I want you to at least be reasonable whenever I say this. And if any Disney executives even listening to our podcast, which, by the way, if you are, hi, how's it going? The only way that this could work, and this is not being disrespectful at all, you are a movie industry and you have to move on in some form of way. If you don't, you're not going to make any headway into it. The only way I see them making into episode 9 is if at the very introduction, that big scroll saying at the beginning text, it says Princess Leia or General Organa, whatever you want to call her technically at that point, had passed away. That's the only way you can do it. And it's not being disrespectful, because clearly they don't want to see her being CG animated.
Her family has said no CG.
So that's the only way I see that this is going to work. Because here's the funny thing. Every Star Wars film, with the exception of Last Jedi, had always taken place several years after its previous film. Last Jedi is the only film where it literally happens right after the last one. So it wouldn't hurt to say like it's been 10 years since the offense of Last Jedi, and somewhere along the lines something like this has happened. It's not disrespectful, it's just moving on with the story.
Mm-hmm.
You know, do something like that. That's the only way I see it. And it will be hard, but that's the only way I see it's going to work. And it's going to work to where they can actually set the premise out. You know? Because obviously, Disney's going to make another 3 set. They're obviously going to make another 3 set.
Mm-hmm.
And they're doing it with this new cast.
So it just makes sense to just do it that way.
That's the only way I see it. It's just best to just have that little segment of like, okay, she's dead, let's move on to the main segment. And that's it. That's not being disrespectful. That's just moving on with the series. Because actors, we go through this all the time where either we have to change actors, or we've had situations where we have to remove characters and stuff like that. So you have to move on in that particular segment. I would prefer it if for some reason the actor couldn't portray as that character, if you had to kill off the character. Because by replacing the actor with a different actor entirely, it's just jarring to me.
And considering the fact that Leia was so grounded to the image of Carrie Fisher as Princess Leia, it's like, trying to think of a good example here. It's like, I can't even think of any actors. It's like all of a sudden in the Harry Potter movies, if they decide to replace Daniel Radcliffe with a totally different actor, because he's so built into that character, we just can't imagine any other actor playing Harry Potter or something.
The only few times it works is like with Dumbledore.
Mm-hmm.
That was the only time that when an actor was replaced, it worked to his advantage.
Well, mostly due to the fact that they changed the directors and his directing style changed, and Dumbledore was more integrated within. There was more scenes with Dumbledore in each further movies than it was in Sorcerer's Stone and Chamber of Secrets.
Yeah, but you see what I mean. The point is that they've changed it, and even though it's a difference, it's not effective to a point to where it affects us as viewers. We accepted the change. Personally, the worst one is where after Iron Man 1, we go into Iron Man 2, and it's Fran, who would eventually become Iron Patriot at this point. They change actors, if you've noticed.
Yeah, although to be fair, I actually kind of grown accustomed to him than I had with the first guy they got,
Yeah,
in my opinion.
He did really well, I admit, but it just, they changed it, and it affects me because I like the first Iron Man movie. Out of all 3 of the Iron Man movies, I like the first one better. So it's like when they did that transition, I didn't like it as much. It's sort of like was the same way with Ansem, the Seeker of Darkness, where you had Billy Zane, who originally voiced it as him, and then you've got this other guy who voices as him, and it's just
Kingdom Hearts!
Yes, we all know the meme. But the point is that changing actors is not so easy to do.
Well, heck, with me, usually when Muppets change performers, there's not too much to say, mostly due to either the performer has passed on, or they just want to give it to someone else who will be more frequent. And most of the time they get performers for the Muppets, Sesame Street, and so on that actually match the character's persona, or has at least changed it good. And with this part, before anyone criticizes me, I love Matt Vogel. He is an excellent performer. He does well with Big Bird, he does well with all of Jerry Nelson's characters, and he's very passionate. But I'm having so much trouble with him as Kermit. I'm sorry. I think the problem is we aren't having enough screen time with him. All we've been getting, and I know people can say, what about the live performances? I haven't seen it, and most of the time the audio sounds very different. But all I've been seeing is him doing Kermit in the Muppets of the Week for the YouTube channel. That's it. And I haven't seen a project where Matt Vogel can really show Kermit, and it's like he just seems the voice just seems odd. Like there's parts where it's like, okay, it's getting right, and then other parts it's like, that's not Kermit. And maybe if it'll do better, like if that rumored Muppet Show series is coming next year, which
I think it would help just to showcase that, and I think that's why they're being on the hush hush about any projects, is because of this new Muppet series that's coming up.
Yeah, although the strange thing is there was someone who, I forgot his name, but he was an understudy for Kermit in case Steve Whitmire leaves or whatever. And there was, I think it was in the America's Got Talent, where he actually did, where this performer did Kermit, and he did fine. He actually did good. So it's like, why didn't you just go with him? Or he wasn't with the Muppet Studios and was full-time busy with either Sesame Street or was love to do further projects. I'm not sure.
It all depends, because considering the fact that the Muppets is not a part of the Jim Henson's license, it's now a Disney's license.
Yes,
now.
but the Jim Henson Company still has say what is good and what's not good. I mean, the whole Steve Whitmire saying they confronted with the Henson Company about that whole ordeal.
Yeah, but I still have a feeling that there's like a Disney handling somewhere along the lines. I mean, when you've got copyright things, everyone has a hand in on it. Regardless if it's major or not, they always have a handle on certain things. And sometimes Disney likes to be a part of it, even though they're not. They want to be a major part of that dealing regardless of what anyone says. And sometimes that can be a little, what's the word I'm looking for? Bullshit?
Yeah, but there's... Actually, Disney's just been messing with my head. I love Disney, but with them focusing more on Marvel and Star Wars, which I understand is bigger franchises than Muppets and all, but they're facing an identity crisis here. They really are. It's like, when you think of Disney, I immediately think of Mickey Mouse. But now with, Marvel, Star Wars, Pixar, Muppets, and now 20th Century Fox, the image is clouding up even more of recognizing Disney, as it's now having so much IPs and stuff that's getting really confusing. I mean, it really is hurts my mind trying to imagine Disney, but you have so much. Heck, when we went to the Knoxville Mall, we went to the Disney store, and the first half was nothing but Marvel, Star Wars, and then the rest was like Disney princesses, maybe a little bit of Mickey here and there. It's like they're facing an identity crisis, and if they do any more buyouts, I'm afraid for them. I'm really scared of what's going to happen next.
Yeah, it's at this point that Disney needs to try to get a hold of themselves and get better control of what they have. And I think what it is that Disney doesn't know what their next animated movie is going to be, You have all of these licenses because they don't know what to do. I mean, hell, You know the most recent thing in terms of anime movies that they were wanting to do?
Was gigantic.
Yeah.
But
that got canceled.
Well, I think it's slowly coming back, but they just don't know what to do.
They haven't made any headway in it because they don't know how they want to pursue it.
There was talks of one of the veteran animators at Disney doing an official Mickey Mouse movie with the Disney Animation Studio.
And I'm hoping that's true because I would like to see more Mickey Mouse movies.
But no one's talked about it. And the problem is that Disney's doing this with the live action reimagining of the anime films, focusing on that. Is like, sometimes they could be good, like I love Cinderella, but then you get ones that are kind of, so it's like, again, it seems like they're getting really confused of what to go ahead with.
Yeah, it is kind of disoriented. It's just, you got all of these different franchises and everything like that, and they're coming into one jar, and it gets kind of hard to pick out what's going on into it. It's like they have this big jar of like, okay, what franchise should we focus on? We've got the Star Wars franchise, let's do that. And then pull it, it's like, we got another Iron Man movie coming up. And they pull in, and they're like, where's the Muppets at? And it's like, good question.
Wait.
Oh dear, we have a lot more franchises than we thought.
Hey, question. Where's Pixar? Well, actually, they're doing fine with Pixar. Not too bad there.
Pixar seems to be the only end that seems to be doing all right, and that's only because Pixar is doing its own thing. I think we found out recently in the past years that Disney's just doing their own, or Pixar's doing its own thing, because when Disney is trying to get a grip into it, it gets a little shaky, but when Pixar makes their own movies and stuff like that, that's whenever you can see the true talents come into play.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell which is Disney and which is Pixar. It's like, I can clearly see it in both the animation and the stylized.
And the way that the story is usually presented and the writing and everything.
Yeah, you can clearly see it. And once you do see it, that's whenever it makes a headway.
But whenever you combine, it gets really confusing a bit.
Yeah, but at any rate, though, let's go ahead and move into another subject. Do you want to go into a question, or do you want me to go into a question?
I didn't get any questions.
Well, not question, I mean subjects.
Oh, okay. Oh, I was about to say, although I didn't get questions, which if you want to send me questions, you're always welcome to. Either comment on the video, email me at danielmullinsflee@gmail.com. You can ask me any questions, and we'll answer on the podcast. But since we were talking about Disney, this isn't a rant or anything, but I've been on YouTube for the past week. I've just been watching mostly videos talking about Disneyland, Walt Disney World, Disney California Adventures, theme parks. I just been, most of the time when I think of Disney, I always talk about like the animated films and the animated films.
I love how you say the animated films and the animated films.
I don't give into the live action stuff.
There's very few live action bits that I like, and that's mostly because they usually take part with some of the animated parts. Like, for example, Bed Knobs and Broomsticks and then Mary Poppins.
Yeah, but I don't really talk about the theme park lands, as it's been years since me and Ham's been to Walt Disney World.
I think the last time we went was like I was 12, 13, 14 at the time, so it's been about 14, no?
The only memory of Disneyland and me being there was being mauled down by a giant chipmunk.
You were scared of Pluto.
Pluto's gonna bite me!
It's funny, it's like the Robin Williams bit. It's like, take the kid to Disneyland! Yes, Disneyland! He gets to see Mickey Mouse! Bullshit! A 6-foot Mickey Mouse is still a 6-foot giant rat!
Yes, it's great, but I've been just getting into like the history of Disneyland and some of the attractions. There's 2 YouTube channels that I've been watching, and they are called Defunct Land and Yesterworld Entertainment. They also do videos talking about old theme park attractions to like Universal Studios or Six Flags, but I just focus most on Disney as it has such a huge history. ranging back ever since Disneyland opened up in California in the late 50s. And there's just so much history and so much change that went through the theme park attractions. Like how Mission to Mars went from that to the extraterrestrial alien encounter and then Stitch's Great Escape. Or the whole journey into imagination. I've just been getting so in depth within the Disneyland history and some of the fun little trivias that you could discover. Like, do you remember? Do you know who Figment is?
Figment?
The purple dragon.
Oh yeah. I don't remember, but I do know what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, I mean, in Disney California Adventures, they took the Twilight Zone's Tower of Terror and changed into a museum where you can board into see the collector's collection from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right, I'm actually interested in seeing
like
that.
actual props from the movie and stuff. And Figment is actually an Easter egg in there. Like, he's in one of the cages up in the collector's vault. It's like, that's cute.
I'm
I
actually
like that.
interested to see that because I wasn't a big fan of thriller rides, as they're called technically.
Well, it's a drop thing.
I know, but it's still a ride regardless. I don't like those type of things, but I'm interested in the collector's thing. It's just when I first heard about it, I was like, that actually sounds interesting. I mean, I'm a big fan of Guardians of the Galaxy anyway. Yeah. So just to go in there would be nice as well. Even if it's just a museum type thing, I actually wouldn't mind going through it.
That way you're not going to be dropped down 300 feet.
I understand that there's a fair amount of people who hate the fact that it's gone now.
Well, luckily Tower of Terror is still in Walt Disney World.
Wait, Tower of Terror is still there?
Okay, Disney California Adventure.
Yeah. I got you.
Yeah, you got 3 different Disney in the U.S. Disney's California Adventure. Then you got the Disneyland, which is right across from it, and then you got Walt Disney World in Florida.
Wait, there 3. Where did the third one come from? I am so behind on my news.
Okay, first off, the original Disneyland, just Disneyland, has Magic Kingdom, Fantasyland, all that. It's just Disneyland. That's just it. It's in California. Then the Florida project, which will become Walt Disney World, and then right across from Disneyland was Disney's California Adventure, which was meant...
Oh, that's right. That
was meant to, symbolize California, but in the end, they're slowly getting rid of that and trying to make it like an expansion for Disney.
I remember now. Okay, so it didn't get reformatted. Okay, my history with Disney theme parks and stuff, my mind originally thought that the Florida one was the original Disneyland.
No.
And I realize this now. I thought it was the original, but it's not. Then I thought the California one was the second one. I am way behind. So apparently...
Wasn't you and Mom in an argument about the whole Disneyland thing?
We all was in that argument. Wes was in that argument. You were... Because, I wasn't familiar with it. I thought Disneyland first originated in Florida. No, apparently it originated in California. Then they made one in Florida. Then they made a third one in because I remember hearing about the California one, but I thought that was the second one. I only knew about the 2 locations. No, there's actually 3. Okay. I've got it now. I'm caught up. I know about the other...
Maybe you should watch some of these Disney theme park attractions.
Maybe I should. Maybe I can learn this thing or two.
I've just been learning mostly about theme park attractions that's been changed, altered, or completely removed and stuff. Because it's really interesting, especially like the submarine voyage. Of how it was just a regular submarine voyage, then it later was turned based in the 2,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Then it was just completely removed, changed to Pooh's Playground, and then it was brought back as a Finding Nemo attraction. It gets really confusing. Although sometimes kind of sad of how when they take some of these theme park attractions, they usually scrap them a lot. Like there was 10 different submarines for the 2,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Like there was one in the Disney cruise thing. I don't know, it's like in a scuba diving area of like Disney Sea, where you can scuba dive and you see the submarine kind of like buried. And then I think there's one that's displayed, but then the other 8 submarines was scrapped as well as like the animatronics that were part of that. It's like that's heartbreaking right there. As you're looking back footage of Submarine Voyage and the animatronics under the water, granted it was a pain to keep maintenance, but it was pretty dang impressive. Then again, a lot of Disney theme park attractions are pretty impressive with the animatronics, like the Yeti in the mountain ride there. Has a gigantic animatronic, even though it's kind of dangerous to keep it in Type A because it might collapse.
Yeah.
And they kept it kind of static for the entire time, because if they had to do maintenance or something, they would have to completely remove that section. It's like, that would take a lot of money.
Well, I'm going to tell you something right now. It's going to be impossible to keep everything intact. And in Disney's case, they have to make a split-second decision whether to preserve it or to scrap it. And depending on which one would be more beneficial, if it pays out or if it reduced costs and stuff, they have to make the decision. But in my personal opinion, at this rate, because like you said with the 10 Leagues Under the Sea, where they've had 10 submarines, 10 different ones, it would be nice if they would categorize it, save files and stuff, to where it can be viewable. Because some people, they love the rides and stuff like that, but as people get older, they want to know more about their favorite rides. Sometimes they want to know more about their favorite franchises and stuff. And so to see that history is pretty enjoyable. So if it's categorized,
they don't just always scrap them. They do reuse the old theme park attractions, like the American Sings. Most of the animatronics were later incorporated in the Splash Mountain,
right? Because
they look so similar to the song itself, as the Disney designer did both Song of Itself and America Sings. So it's like, it's perfect. They blend so perfectly together.
Yeah, but my point is that to have it categorized as to what they were before and then what happened to them and everything like that, that's something that's interesting to know.
Yeah, that's why I'm getting really interested. As Disneyland has so much history, though the one thing they better not scrap, and if they do, I'm gonna freaking mob up, but is the steam trains. If they get rid of the steam trains to replace them with diesels. Oh boy, I'm gonna start an army! I'm gonna be like the people who didn't want Mr. Toad's Wild Ride to be removed from Walt Disney World, and I'm gonna make a massive army to save the steam choo-choos stuff. And no, I just want to go to freaking Disneyland now.
I know, but my particular ones, and there's a lot of them. There's a lot of stuff.
Oh, and Muppet Version 3D. Don't get rid of that, or I...
Anyway, there's a lot of stuff that I liked it from Disney World. Some of it is still integrated in my mind, but there is some stuff that I want to either still see or want to have remain. And the stuff that I want to keep remaining is like the Country Bear Club.
Yeah, well,
I love that. I love the Country Bears. That's one of my favorite. Even though it's just a show, it's still a fun show to sit down and watch and everything. And then of course, there's the one area before you go into Toon Town, and right behind the castle itself, where there's like a merry-go-round.
Yeah.
Where that Sword in the Stone is at.
Yeah, that's a...
I'm not sure if it's still there or not, but I would like for it to stay there. Because every once in a while they do like a little show where Merlin shows up and he actually has like his little briefcase and stuff. I kind of like it because it kind of brings it to life, what it does.
I remember that. That was fun.
That was fun. It's like while we were waiting to go on the merry-go-round, I saw that and I was like, oh, this is fun. This is fun. And then Toon World, even though technically there's not a lot to do.
Except when you go into Donald Duck's boathouse, water just gets splashed all over you.
But going to each individual character houses is pretty cool to do because it's really nice to kind of see it and everything. Another one is Future World. And
don't you mean Tomorrowland?
Futureland, Tomorrowland, whatever it's called technically. But I like it. I like that area entirely. I don't know if they got rid of it or not. That one little I wouldn't call it a ride. It's more of a view show where you're standing and everything like that. Technically, you're in like a time machine, and there's this robot who basically has the voice of Robin Williams.
I think they got rid of that.
They did. I loved it, that one, because that was so awesome. But, yeah. But another one, and this is one I still want to see. I hadn't had a chance to do it, but I want to see it now especially, is the Pirates of the Caribbean ride.
Oh, yes, that one.
I know it's been altered since its original design, but they've kept the majority of it anyway, and with the added bonus of Jack Sparrow and any interaction with the Pirates of the Caribbean movies.
I want to go to the Haunted Mansion to see the Nightmare Before Christmas. That'd be nice to see.
That would be awesome. I would love to see that.
And of course, it's really hard to remember what's all they kept and what not kept because they changed so much. Which, yes, face it, after 60 plus years of operation, some things have to be changed or altered.
Yeah.
But there's things that when they remove, it's kind of heartbreaking as you really love that ride, and it's changed to something else that may be okay, but or like something that is based on a popular movie.
Yeah. I just hope they don't get rid of the teacup ride, because that's a crowd.
That would be criminal. That would be Class A criminal.
I don't care.
One of the holy 10 commandments you're not supposed to break.
Of the Disney 10 commandments, thou shalt not mess with the teacup ride.
Yes,
I don't care if you puke after you get done. It's fun just to twirl around.
Oh God, we're gonna be sick.
In fact, when we were at Dollywood a couple of years ago, me and Dale went on what's called the what's it called again? Lemon Twist ride.
Yeah.
Where basically it's the same concept. You're in these cups and everything like that, and it has a little twirl saying, "And I'm spitting it as fast as I can." Dale's getting sick over here, and I'm just dying laughing. I'm having fun.
I was like, I don't like this again. No! I did not puke though. You gotta be known, I did not get puke. So.
Oh, that was so fun. I loved it all.
It's fun, but that's what I've been doing on YouTube. It's just been watching a lot of Disneyland history stuff, and it's fun. It really is. Yeah, I just want to go to Disney World now.
I know.
Which is something we're planning on next year or something.
I don't know. We'll have to ask Mom and Wes.
I would love to, because it'll be nice to see.
That would be
again.
fun to do. But anyway, though, let's see. Which topic do I want to go ahead and talk about? I've actually got a lot built up now that I think about it.
I got uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco.
Wow, you just got as much as many as I do.
Yeah, I've been having trouble trying to think of some of these topics.
Well, okay, let's just go ahead and go into this one, because this one spawned it up some time ago, and I first saw it whenever I saw your little thing on Twitter, and I was like, okay, I'll just take a part on it, and that is the 4 games that hashtag GameStruck4.
Oh, yeah. For those who don't have Twitter, there's a saying where you hashtag GameStruck4, was it?
Uh-huh.
And you put down 4 games that has majorly impacted you. Or games that you have such a huge connection with that you're GameStruck4.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we did. I did it just for fun. It's like, that'd be a pretty cool thing to do. And he did as well.
Yeah. And I wanted to kind of go ahead and talk about our 4 games.
Just got 4.
Yeah. And of course, my 4 that I had was obviously Kingdom Hearts. You know, that's no brainer right there. Final Fantasy VII, Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne, and Dark Souls. Now, I picked those 4 because those were the ones that kind of made a major shift inside of myself. And speaking of inside, my stomach needs to...
I was trying to think, like, what is that? What was that? Was that my stomach?
That was my stomach. And if it gets any louder, it's going to sound like a bear. Anyway, but those 4 impacted me the most. And Kingdom Hearts impacted me because at the time, I just saw this video game as just being fun and entertaining. And Kingdom Hearts case, it kind of moved me to being more invested into a game and be with the story all the way through, and then to eventually get to a point where I wanted to complete said Kingdom Hearts game. And then Final Fantasy VII, technically this was more or less of a backseat from what I was already familiar with because of Kingdom Hearts and then eventually playing Final Fantasy X. I played through Final Fantasy VII, and I actually liked it, how Final Fantasy VII was laid out, how it all had itself. It had perfect atmosphere, well-made music, and even though a lot of people disagree with this statement, I think Final Fantasy VII stands out to this day to some degree. Admittedly, the graphical isn't that fantastic, but in all honesty, it really doesn't need to be changed in any way. It does well for what it is, and I just like how it is overall. In fact, it's probably one of the favorited. If I had to pick out the top 10 favorite games to complete, not favorite games, but favorite games to complete, Final Fantasy VII is probably closer to number 1 than anything. And it's kind of weird for me to say that because there is a lot of stuff to do.
Too much stuff.
But all of it is well worth it, and I enjoy it all the time. I don't know if I want to complete 7 or not whenever I do my live stream, but I may come to a decision later on whenever I get to that point. But then of course there's Dark Souls. My history with From Software had been sour up until that point because of Demon Souls. And then eventually I got to a point to where I was like, you know what? Let's play Dark Souls. It's available for under $20. Might as well see what it's all about. And thankfully I got to learn more about Dark Souls before I picked it up, thanks to this one guy, Hunter SC, he's known as. He did a walkthrough on Dark Souls. You know, what route would be better, what way would you want to do in order to level up your equipment and stuff. Kind of gave like a, here's how to play video series. And even though I watched it all the way through, and even knowing everything, I enjoyed it, Dark Souls, more than I ever thought I would. And it was weird. It was weird that I watched an entire walkthrough, then got into Dark Souls, and I loved it more than I ever thought I would. I even love it better than Dark Souls 2 and 3. And that's weird to say because they actually improve gameplay mechanics, but Dark Souls 1 does stuff way better than the next two that they would eventually do overall. And I'm looking forward to the remaster version because the improvement that they said that they're going to do is enough of a reason for me to pick it up anyway. You know, especially with Blighttown.
Hopefully that's fixed.
Hopefully. If nothing else, the 60 frame will help it to keep it stabilized, per se. But then, there's Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne. Now, this was during a time that I had played a lot of PlayStation 3 games. I kind of fell out from the retro theme and stuff. And I was playing a lot of PlayStation 3, and I was starting to hate the trend that was going on in the gaming market. I absolutely hated it, and I had that point of where I just didn't want to be invested with any of the new games because I didn't like what they were doing to them. They were, in my personal mindset, I felt like they were destroying themselves. And then you had told me that Final Fantasy 15 Kingdom Hearts 3 was coming out in the next console gen. But I just felt like they were messing it up. So then I decided to go back, and the very first game that I went back was Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne. My initial reason for why I went to that game was because it was an RPG mechanic. I heard a lot of people say it was a really good franchise, and it had Dante. I was like, what could you go wrong, right? And I got started, and I immediately got invested in it after I found out that you can technically barge, communicate, as well as to infight other demons into your party. And you know, the overall concept of how Nocturne had been and what it was and everything like that, I enjoyed it surprisingly well. You know, going into it not knowing what it all was and stuff, and it impacted me in a way that I made my way into getting invested in other retro games. And even though Nocturne is known more for being one of the best RPG out there, it was the one game that got me back into the retro market itself.
Okay, so my game struck, or game for game struck, I think. I'm not good with hashtags, the stupid little... Anyway, the 4 games I chose, 2 of them I've already done a review on. One of them I'm actually planning on doing an upcoming Down Marshall episode. And another, I keep holding back for some reason, but let me go over them. There's Super Mario 64, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, the original Kingdom Hearts. Yes, I know I stole it from him, but shut up. And then Epic Mickey. Super Mario 64 is special to me. It's really hard for me to choose which is my favorite Mario game. I love Odyssey, I love Galaxy 2, but Super Mario 64 I always come back to, not just because it was my favorite video game, my introduction to gaming, but being a kid, I was just so enthralled of running around in a 3D environment and exploring around this castle and jumping into these paintings, which felt Disney-like at times. Jumping into a painting to be open to this vast world. Kind of like in that one Mickey Mouse cartoon where he jumped into a mirror and everything's talking. It's like that, but 10 times more imaginative. And it's just something that I love. And when I always go back to Mario 64 every year, whether to finally being able to 100% complete it last year when I did that Delmar Show episode. I never got to get on 120 stars, but I love the game so much. It's like, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and get 120 stars, go full completionist on it, and it felt so rewarding because I love that game, and being able to complete it just opened a brand new appreciation for it. And then with Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, it's sort of the same concept. I like Zelda, but I never had a huge connection like everyone has. Whenever people say Ocarina of Time is their favorite, they always mention that passion, the love for adventure. And it's like, I never got that out of any... Not saying I don't hate any Legend of Zelda games, I just never got that master connection. Breath of the Wild is the one that I felt that sense of adventure, that sense of discovery, as it's a huge world, and I loved exploring it. Some people have said that exploring around can be boring. It's a fantasy game, for goodness sake. It's gotta be like Skyrim and stuff, where there's so much walking around, but it was so much fun getting to see different types of people, exploring the fact you climb any mountain.
Yes, that's the biggest thing.
Any mountain, any terrain, there is no limit. Like, there is limits, but
it's not seenable yet.
Yes. It felt like you kept going, like, how much farther do I get to? And then there's more. And I loved being able to go through short puzzle dungeons or puzzle shrines and able to get a shrine orb and stuff. It felt very rewarding because, well, heck, not even the shrine puzzle itself, being able to find them was so rewarding, like climbing to the tallest mountain in the game and there's a shrine on the top. It's like, my stamina is messed up, but it's so worth it being able to get there. And the story is not anything that important, but it's just the sense of adventure and being able to go through these trials and tribulations, and it's just a beautiful game. My goodness, it's glorious. And every location is just beautiful. Granted, the only thing that I didn't like was the rain. It rained too much. But aside from that, it was just beautiful. I absolutely love it.
Maybe Legend of Zelda takes place in Tennessee. Because it rains non-stop here.
You're not wrong!
Seriously, if you don't like the weather in Tennessee, wait in about 5-10 minutes. It'll change.
One moment it'll be 80 degrees and then next it'll be 30 degrees. What? Anyway, back to the thing. With Kingdom Hearts, when we were young, we mostly played in 64, and I knew nothing about any other video game consoles or anything. But then I remember watching a VHS tape of one of the Disney movies, and there was an advertisement for Kingdom Hearts on PS2, and it's like, this is a game where Disney characters all get together and you get to explore them. That's cool on a PlayStation 2. And for my 8th birthday, my mom got me that along with Kingdom Hearts. And I think I have to give Kingdom Hearts more credit to being a game that opened my eyes to how big games are. I mean, granted, yes, I may not have a huge connection to the Kingdom Hearts franchise compared to you, but with the first Kingdom Hearts, I loved the simple story, being able to immerse yourself within Sora to have fun, having Goofy and Donald join with you along your quest, along with other Disney characters like Peter Pan, Beast, and others, and being able to explore this world, fighting off creatures, and the RPG mechanic. If it was turn-based, I probably wouldn't have had as much fun with it.
Right.
But with the hacker slash battle mechanic, it made it very enjoyable and was a very easy introduction to RPGs, or how RPGs would work in a way. But like with Kingdom Hearts, when I discovered the PlayStation 2, I also discovered other systems like older systems like the Genesis, and of course that also led to us discovering G4, the good G4, mind you.
Before it became extinct.
When it was like X-Play, Gamer Cheats, Attack with the Show, and we loved looking up new games coming out, and also hoping for news of Kingdom Hearts 2. Even the show announcers, I remember one episode, they're like, people kept asking us about Kingdom Hearts 2. Well, we know nothing. We haven't heard. We're just as wondering when it's going to come out as much as you are. And I think Kingdom Hearts 2 have to give major credits to how big gaming is, of like the whole industry and marketplace of it.
If nothing else, Kingdom Hearts helped open us up to the gaming industry as a whole.
Yes. And now I'm trying to do better, but I sometimes critique myself so much for not talking about certain games enough, and for some reason I keep pushing back talking about Epic Mickey.
You need to eventually do a video on it, because you've been wanting to do that for a long time, and I've been wanting you to do that for a long time.
Yeah, well, Epic Mickey is like, it's one of my favorite games. Like, I know some people when they see it's like, oh, it's just a cash grab, like
it's more than just a cash grab.
Well, can I?
Go ahead.
Sorry, but first heard about Epic Mickey. My brother got his copy of Game Informer. It's like, oh, Daniel. He was just teasing. It's like, what? Then he shows me a cover. It's like, okay, it's just a dock. You can. Is that Mickey? Is that? Ooh.
I still have that cover to this day.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I was looking for the Game Informer, and I was reading about the whole Epic Mickey, like them taking Mickey, trying to make him more adventurous again. The idea of bringing these rejected old Disney characters or stuff that people have forgotten into this wasteland. And I knew about Oswald for about a whole year before leading up to Epic Mickey, or before the magazine. I knew about Oswald. It's like, huh, that's kind of cool, interesting. And to see them, the way that they're bringing Oswald back into the story, it would make me so excited, because like, oh my gosh, Oswald's going to be in this game. I was so excited, and I waited so impatiently for this freaking title. I was like, I kept seeing like Nintendo Paladin issue, and then I kept seeing popping. It's like, I want this game to be out now! And I think it was the game that I was most hyped about out of all. Like, from Mario Kart 8, Smash Bros., this was the game that I was the most excited to play. And when I finally got the chance to play it, it was everything that I expected, even more. It had a very interesting story of Mickey, after being so popular for so many years, forgetting about some of these characters like Oswald and the mistake of the wasteland, and then having to go back to fix this mistake that he did that he forgot, and getting to see all the gremlins, a reintroduction to the Mad Doctor and the Phantom Blood, who's terrifying.
Yeah.
And I just love how they took old ideals, like old concept arts and rejected theme park attractions, and being able to bring them back into the wasteland is really what is great about Disney. Is that yes, we must move on to tomorrow, to look forward to tomorrow and create new ideals, but we also gotta remember to look back on the past and appreciate the things we made and learn from our past mistakes. And then being able to combine those ideas and stuff into this game is just breathtaking. And I desperately need to do a review on this, because it's just so wonderful. Heck, this was actually the very first video game where I got in a limited edition of. It was,
wasn't it?
Yes, and I don't usually get limited editions that much. As of the time of making this video, the ones I've gotten now is like the Sonic Mania, Four Goddesses Online. Then I'm getting the Mega Dimension Neptuna V2 art. That is a stupid title, I just realized. I got the limited edition coming in, and I don't usually order limited editions that much unless it's a game I'm really excited or absolutely will love, and it's such a great game. It's one of my favorites. May not be as complex as most games, but for me, it's everything I love. And I'm actually hoping to talk about this as well as the sequel and Power of Illusions as well. Maybe I'll making that the 100th episode probably. I'm not sure.
That'd be funny if you did.
Yeah, but that was the 4 game stretch for me.
So with this next question, I want to go ahead and bring up is best memories with games. Like, what is the best memory that you've had when it comes to games? Like, it can be any form of memory, whether it was you hanging out with a friend, or just you solo beating a game, or just whatever it is, whatever was your best memory of it. And you'll always look back.
Can we start with you? Because I'm not good with trying to remember back. My memory's fuzzy at times. But
that's fair. So, my best memory spawns back to probably, I guess, yeah, it was before high school, technically. Right before high school, actually, now that I think about it. It was me and my best friend TJ. And at the time, we had never played a Final Fantasy game. And we went to a GameStop, and we both saw a copy of Final Fantasy X. And me and him, we were familiar with the Kingdom Hearts series, but we never was familiar with the Final Fantasy series. So we were like, you know what, this is here, let's play Final Fantasy X. And what's funny is that we actually got the game, and then we started playing it later that night. And even though TJ played the majority of it, it was still fun to watch. We played it from the very beginning all the way to Shiva's temple. And I think that was a good, I want to say about a 5 or 6 play just straight off. We were up late that night. And we played all the way to that point. And it's like, even though technically the next following day we were so zonked out and tired, that night was still so much fun to do. It was a blast. Mostly because I got to hang out with TJ. We got to enjoy a single game together. And it was fun. In my personal opinion, that's my favorite gaming moment that we've had.
It's really hard for me to choose a specific one, in my opinion. It really is. There's too many great moments, really, that I love.
Well, which one stands out the most that you tend to go back to a lot?
Again, that's really hard. With the Delmar Pals, Mrs. Bouts, which is a Let's Play series I did, I didn't make them a whole lot. No made ends whenever we had James or Tommy come over. But I always love looking back at some of those videos. And it's not just us trying to replicate a Let's Play, but us having fun, as I always enjoy co-op playing or having a buddy playing a game. I know people say why not just go online, but for me, online gaming just isn't the same. It's not. And I know, especially Brandon wants us to play online, but I'm always would rather have a friend next to me doing couch co-op. As one, that we can mess about and give noogies and beat the crap out of after being in Smash Bros. For the 50th time, Tommy! But, actually I just thought of memory. For Tommy. Okay, so this memory here was when, back when Mario Kart 8 for the Wii U, it was, I think this was a little bit before the DLC came out. I pre-ordered the DLC for it, but this was before it came available. And we had, excuse me, we were with Tom, it was me, you, and Tommy. We were playing Mario Kart 8, and I was just doing great in it. Then again, I'm a Mario Kart maniac.
This was at the time that you had played every Mario Kart game for your Mullins retro bit.
Yes, and Tommy, as I was playing, it was so much fun. He loved the visual style of Mario Kart 8. He was loving the game. But the parts that I was dying laughing, we were dying laughing too, was when as I was usually first place and he was usually about 7th or 8th, and he would get the blue shell. Well, after I crossed the final lap, like the victory of the the blue shell were just missed. And Tyler's like, what? It should hit you. You should just, why didn't it go hit you? And he was so upset every time that happened. And it was just, and we actually, one of the best things I love about Mario Kart 8 is that when you want to like have a tournament match with a friend, you can actually set to how many different tracks you want to go. You can either do 3, 4. We did all 48 tracks. We had a whole Mario Kart marathon of going through all the tracks.
That was a fun time, even though I didn't really win, but it was fun.
Yeah, but I loved it. Just seeing Tyler's reaction, and it was just
like,
so much.
Blue shell!
Well, not just that, but just him being enthralled by the beauty of Mario Kart 8, because I probably should have put that on the list, but it's game 4. If it was game 5, Mario Kart 8 instantly in there, but no, it had to be 4.
Yeah, it's hard to come up with just 4, because otherwise Shadow of the Colossus would have been on there as well, but just games that struck me.
I've also probably would have put in Ratchet and Clank in there, and what else? I'm looking at the game show right about now. There's too many to choose from. Dadgummit! But yeah, that's a good memory, but it's really hard to choose. And again, back to the Delmar pals, a year back, it's like table codings. Like how go through your VHS tapes to watch old memories of like childhood. Kind of like that, where I'm looking back at just me and a friend playing a game and just having fun.
Personally, my favorite of you and Tommy playing a game for Delmar and Palace Messes About was the Punch-Out one for the Wii. That was entertaining for me, because it was just entertaining. You two you were going on about it, even at the slow points where you were just like trying to beat what was it, Sandman?
Yeah, Mr. Sandman.
That was just so...
we even did a part 5 redemption to try to make up for that. But it was it's fun looking back at some of those old videos. I've been doing that a lot, which I know a lot of people gonna say rehashing, but I just like to revisit videos. And yeah, I am planning on redoing some Delmar show episodes. Like I'm going to redo Ren and Stimpy adult block cartoon, the Trolleys, that Dodges 64, and the current style that is me and not trying to replicate someone else. But again, I went over that all the way back when I did the evolution of the Delmar show.
Right.
But yeah, that was actually pretty fun.
Yeah.
Sorry if I got extremely drowsy. I need a nappy nap.
All right then. Well, go ahead and send us off.
Oh, right. Thank you guys for enjoying this podcast. If you have any questions or want to submit topic ideas, you can either comment or send them to danielmullinsfree@gmail.com. That's my personal email address. And yeah, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next podcast episode. So bye-bye!
See you later, guys.
And now I'm going to take a nap on the floor.
Ow! That was loud.
That actually hurt my, what's this bone called again?
Hip bone?
My hip bone!
Pelvis, I think.
Oh! Also, for some reason, I'm now remembering Wishbone for some reason. Do you remember that show? I liked the Wishbone. That was a good show.
Oh, now I remember.
Yeah, the dog with the imagination. That was a good show. Whatever happened to Wishbone?
I don't know.